Congratulations on a successful first season as a head coach of the Pioneers. How do you feel now that you've completed your first year as a pro head coach?
Yeah, it's the first couple of days. There's still a lot of emotion attached to it, and you're still kind of winding down from that high level of emotion of good things, bad things, all that kind of stuff. But we've now kind of completed all of our exit meetings with the players, and you kind of get an understanding of how they felt about the year and things that went really well and things that didn't. And now it's a little more business-like the way you think about it, and you realize quite quickly you made a lot of mistakes and you could do a lot of things way better. And it's kind of one of those, I wish we would have. But at the same time, the overall impact of the season was massive on our club, the community, and the land. So we'll spend the next month as a coaching team trying to evaluate everything we can fix, everything we need to do better, and how we move forward.
As the last place team of the previous season, the Pioneers have undergone an incredible transformation under your leadership. What would you say were the key components that led to this improvement?
Yeah, you know what? I think being really honest with the guys at the beginning of the season. I showed them we were predicted to finish last, and I was a first-year head coach and with a new staff, and we were a club that still had a lot to learn. And I think it was really the message with the players at the beginning of the year is we need to be very hungry and we need to be very humble, that we have to prove ourselves. And that was a message we were able to kind of push throughout the season. I said, if there's going to be a difference maker for us and other teams, is that we're going to be tougher together, and we're going to be a closer group, and we're going to believe in each other a lot more. And in these professional leagues, there's always going to be teams that have their ups and downs and have problems and have to make changes and switches. And we wanted to be a group that did things for each other. That hunger, that compete level was massive for our group this entire season. And the message with the guys was it didn't matter the wins and the losses early, as long as we outcompeted every team every night. That was our goal. And I said, just slowly let this thing build. And I said, you don't have to believe me at the start, but believe me in the middle, and really believe me at the end, that the message we're trying to push, it's going to work. And my goal for this club this year was to make sure that in January and February we were playing games that really mattered. And we were playing games that mattered to a point where we were maybe going to be close to 6th and 7th and 8th. And we got to a point where we needed to fight hard to lock our spot in. And I think we easily made the pre-playoffs with a hard push at the end. And we were able to, as a group, stick with the same message the entire year. We went into the pre-playoffs against Innsbruck, against a team that we had only beat once in 2 years. And as a group, our team felt so confident going into that series because we were able to build throughout the year, and the message stuck the same. There was no panic, there was no frustration. It was about how hard we worked, how much we cared about each other, and that at the end of the day, if we were the hungrier team on the ice, we trusted we had a chance to win every night.
The team exceeded its season goal by qualifying for the pre-playoffs and even advancing to the quarterfinals. What were the biggest challenges along the way, and how did you and the team overcome them?
Not to panic. Early in the year, we had a 6-game losing streak. In the middle of the year, we had a 5-game losing streak. There's some clubs where I would have lost my job. And that's the truth, though. It is. But in the middle of those, the message did not change. There was no panic. I don't think I ever went into the dressing room at the end of this or during this season and yelled and screamed or anything like that. There was times where I was not happy with the compete level, or that we didn't have each other's back, or that we got a little negative on the bench. Those would probably be the times, and sometimes that was after wins as well. But I think the fact that we just, like I kind of mentioned, we stuck with the plan, and that's not easy to do in pro hockey. We stuck with the plan with certain players. We stuck with the plan as a message of the team. But I think the most important thing is that as a coaching staff and as the players, we were really humble. And I was the first to tell the guys when maybe we made a mistake. The players were the first to admit they could have done something better. But we were always hungry the next day to get better. And it's the same for the coaching staff. We made some changes throughout the year. We had to find our way as coaches. And tactically, I think by January, we had really found a rhythm that worked well for our group. And, I think getting into pre-playoffs, tactically and the way the guys followed the plan was the reason we won. And then in the quarterfinals, against you see a team that just swept in the semifinals. Klagenfurt is it's the best team in the league. They had to make some tactic adjustments against us, which I don't think would have been predicted at the beginning. And at the end of the day, we gave them one hell of a fight. And if maybe we were a little healthier and had just a little bit more push, maybe we take that to Game 7.
The individual success of our players has been overwhelming. Obviously, I'd like to start with the MVP, Stephen Owry. I know you pushed hard to sign him, and you told me in an interview at mid-season that his success is not a big surprise to you because you knew that was exactly what he could do. Nevertheless, did you expect him to lead the top scorer list and even get awarded the MVP title?
Yeah, it's the individual accomplishments from Steve are incredible. Did we know he was going to lead the league and win MVP? No, but you could sign a guy from the NHL today and you don't know he's going to do that as well. Hockey has so many variables. You got to stay healthy. You got to find a good line. You got to have a system that works. I think the most important thing for somebody like Steve and maybe why other teams said no to him is I think it's so important to find the right mentality of a player that fits with the coaching staff's style of play. And Steve, he's very hungry. You saw in games this year where it was tight. You truly looked at him and he was like, I'm going to get one for us. And those are the kind of players I wanted on this team. And the style of play that Steve had with that speed and that ability to score off the rush was incredible. And I think that's why, personally, I wanted to push so hard for Steve. For me, it's not about where a guy played. He's a guy that played in Canadian University. He's a guy that played in France. He's a guy that played in the UK. And I understand why other teams maybe passed on him. But for me, I saw intangibles that I really liked and I believed in. And I think giving Steve the opportunity this year to make mistakes and to play the way that he wanted to play in our system probably felt pretty good for a skill guy. And so, very proud of his performance. Again, not predictable. You're not going to just bring in the MVP every season, let's be honest. But again, very proud of what he did and very proud that he was able to prove a lot of people wrong.
If we look at the defensemen, there's two names that outshine all the others, Clay Kirichenko and Alex Palistrang. Clay leading the defenders' top scorer list and Alex having his best ever season by points scored. How did you perceive their season?
Yeah, starting with Paulie, you got to remember he actually had a terrible injury at one point in the season too, and the fact that he recovered as well as he did and got back to playing shape as quick as he did was incredible. He's not a young guy; he's got a family at home. You got to make sure you're taking care of your health, and that was really important for our group when Paulie came back into the lineup. But I think the most important thing for Paulie this year was he really grew into the captain shoes. Last year was a first for him. Probably a lot of pressure, probably not a lot of help and guidance. And this year, I think the confidence that he had in that position was huge. And I think then he focused a little bit more on his play because he was able to feel pretty confident in his skates about being the captain and being the leader. Paulie's a guy that has kind of a similar message that I like to push. He stays positive. He's more about how hard you compete. Came from a great organization the last 10 years there in Salzburg where he learned to win. But I think we work well together in terms of the message my captain brings to the group. But it was really cool to see Paulie's performance offensively as well. But the thing I'm probably most proud about was the way that he kind of grew as a captain and moving forward for us. I hope he's got the C on his chest for many years to come.
What about Clay?
Yeah, Clay, it's funny, Steve and Clay, they're kind of a package to me. They both came from the University of Alberta. Both were guys we wanted the first season. We were able to get Clay. We weren't able to get Steve. And, the first year we really didn't have Clay. Most clubs would have never re-signed a player that tore his knee apart in game 2. But myself and management really believed in the professionalism Clay has, that he'd come back stronger. And that he'd come back and be a player that nobody else really thought about. And, yeah, look what happened, right? So you can't always have fairy tale stories. It's not always rainbows and roses, but with Clay's situation this year he's an absolute professional, absolute great person, could be a captain in almost any dressing room, and likely will be at some point in Europe as well. And offensively, he was able to find a groove with our power play, which really helped. And yeah, the guy is a very talented and very good person. And I think second to all the stats is how good of a human he is. At the end of the day, there's not a player or a coach in this club that could say a bad word about Clay, and that says a lot. And similar to Stevie's situation, he's a very hungry guy. That again, you don't have to come from certain places to be a really impactful player, as long as you're put in a situation where you're in an environment where you can perform. And I feel like with Clay, our relationship we had before he came here kind of allowed him to be in an environment where he needed to just perform. And when you allow a guy like that, an athlete like that, to perform, you're going to get some success. And so, again, really proud of what he was able to accomplish this season.
David Madlena is another factor for the team's success. We expect him to be a part of the Austrian national teams during the World Championships in Prague. What are your expectations for Dave in the Czech Republic?
Yeah, Dave's an absolute professional. And he wasn't happy with his year last year. As soon as the World Championships in Finland were over last year, he was right back to the gym, and he felt like he had a lot to prove. And for me as a coach, to see one of your goalies really fighting to compete again at his age, you're excited for what's going to happen. I think Dave got into a groove early. Alex had a little bit of injury problems early in the season, and that allowed Dave to get into a bit of a groove early, and I think really helped him. And Dave's just he's the perfect complement to any dressing room, and I think that's why he's probably had a long-standing reputation with the national program, because I think any team you'd want Dave sitting in your dressing room. I could list numerous stories about how good of a teammate he is. But I think almost anybody in the hockey world in Austria already knows that. He's by far one of the best teammates that I've seen, even when I was a player and now as a coach. And there'll always be a spot for a guy like that on almost any team. And the way he performed this year was incredible. For the World Championships, yeah, for me, I think he's Austria's best goalie right now. He played the most this year. He was lights out in the pre-playoffs for us in the playoffs. I think you have a hungry goalie with him as well. And, I hope the best for him. Let's hope we can sneak over to Prague and watch him play a little bit here. But, it's going to be really cool to see Dave, again, representing Austria. And we hope that here in Vorarlberg, we can continue to develop some players for that program moving forward.
Young guys like Luca Erne or Julia Metzler made another big step forward during this season. Do you think the development of young talent is heading into the right direction in Vorarlberg?
We're getting there. You can see for the last, it's hard to put a time frame on it, but the last 48 years how we've struggled in Vorarlberg, in our land, and in general with development. Bringing up Luca and Julian is two perfect examples. Luca's a guy that this year we were able to take our time with a little bit, and the relationship with the Alps League club Regenswold was massive. Luca's mindset was the most important. He was out to prove that he was going to get better, and he wanted to be hungry and want more. And again, falls right in line with the kind of player we want in our dressing room. But he was able to develop this year. The coaching staff in Regenswold, the coaching staff here, I thought, put Luca in situations where he had to earn his ice time and he had to develop, and he moved up from a third line to a second line to a first line player in the Alps League this year, and that's exactly what needs to happen. Unfortunately, here in Vorarlberg and other places in Austria, the players miss too many steps, and in hockey it's really hard. I could only imagine if you would have told me when I was 18 and 19 that I had to play in the ice hockey league, I would have been blown away. There's NHL players in this league, there's Austrian national team players in this league, and that's very difficult, and I think it's unfair of us to ask that sometimes. So with Luca, the development was great, and you saw the positive reward of it in the second half of the year when he joined us again and was able to score some goals, play some good minutes. And then the playoffs, I think, was an incredible learning experience for Luca. And next year, again, it's not that he's going to score 20 goals in the Ice League, but he still is in development mode, and knowing we have an Ice League team and an Alps League team and numerous coaches that can help that in the off season, in the summers, or in the in season is going to really help. That's where you can see development was done properly. And with Julian, you know, there's a player that for probably about 3-4 years, you know, was going up to the Ice League and sitting on the bench, and then going back to the Alps League and getting playing time, and then sitting on the bench and going back and forth. And there wasn't always a great plan. And you can see over the last year and a half, he's now starting to get into that mold of what kind of player he's going to be. And I think a lot of that is confidence. But when you skip development steps, you lose confidence because you're just kind of thrown into the fire. And that's really hard in the high level of the Ice League. And so there's an example where here in Vorarlberg, if we would have done a better job with Julian Metzler 5 years ago, he probably would be more comfortable in his role and where he needed to be going into these last year or two. And now he's finding that groove. And I think Julian has an incredible upside to his game. And he's still taking the necessary steps to become a very impactful player, but I think he's heading in the right direction. And for a young Vorarlberg player this year to get his first national team game and to join the camp here coming up in April is incredible. And for ourselves as a coaching staff, we just want to really push Julian. We want him to be better, and we want to help him get better. And yeah, at the end of the day, I think his career is going to continue to go upward. And yeah, I hope moving forward he plays a role in the national program.
The club had to deal with quite a bit of negativity, especially in the beginning of the season. How did you manage to keep the team on track despite the challenges while maintaining a positive atmosphere?
Honesty. You know, from day one of training camp, I told the players we were going to eat a lot of shit, and we're going to deal with controversy, and we're going to deal with good things and bad things, and we're going to deal with not great, you know, coverage all the time, and predictions aren't going to be great and stuff like that. I think it helped that my experience in the area, the guys could trust me on that message. I think if you were a brand new coach in this situation, it would have been difficult at the time. But I think the guys trusted me that my honesty was coming from the right place, that I wasn't trying to be negative. I was trying to tell the guys this is where we are. And the greatest thing about where we are right now is we can only go up. And the best feeling in the world when people are putting you down is to just prove them wrong, and not with your mouth or your words, but just by your performance. And it's the same for me. It's the same for the players. You know, it's not like I was told I'm going to be the greatest coach in the league this year. And it's not like our players were, you know, our MVP was not asked to play for other teams this year, and a long list of players down the lineup. And so I said, hey guys, that we have a message we're going to stick to this year. We're going to eat some shit, and we're going to keep our mouth shut, and we're going to outcompete teams, and we're going to earn respect by how hard we work and how not fun we are to play against, and in the middle of the season we still probably are going to have to deal with this. And I said, but if we do this, it's going to make us hard. It's going to make us tough. It's going to make us resilient. And at some point at the end of the year, that resiliency, that toughness is going to be really hard for another team to deal with. And I think you saw that in the pre-playoffs. I think that was a perfect example that we were ready for that level of intensity. And at the end of the day, it was really special to see the celebration of Game 2 against Innsbruck in this rink, in this community. It was really exciting for somebody to stop me at a bakery and to say, hey, good luck, or you know, over at the driving range, you know, people asking about the games and things like that. So it was really special to know that our team earned it the right way. And to watch the players look around in the last couple of minutes of that Innsbruck game and see the energy and to feel it, it was probably the most, well, I'm a young coach, but it was definitely the most special thing that I've witnessed as a coach. And to be honest, it might have been one of the more incredible emotional feelings I had even when I was a player, to see that and just to know you were a part of it and to know you did it the right way. And I think that's what helped our group so much this year, is that we were honest with it at the beginning, and there was only one way to go, and it was going to take a lot of hard work, and you don't always get a reward from that, but this year we did.
If you look at the attendance numbers in the Vorarlberg Halle, especially towards the end of the season, heading into the playoffs and pre-playoffs, there's a clear increase. Do you believe, as you just said, that the way the team played and performed in the playoffs, this could have a long-term positive impact on the viewers' interest?
Yeah, 100%. You got to. I consider myself a half of Vorarlberger, and this is not some big metropolitan community. We're a very hardworking community. You know, from the mountains to the farming to the industry, it's very hardworking. It's a very hardworking community, and I think the most important thing for this group this year was to show how hard we're going to compete and how hard we're going to fight, and that the players we brought in this year are going to follow that same message. And I'm sorry if you're a fan, it's hard to not fall in love with some of these guys this year. The way they competed, the way they fought through, the energy they brought. It's hard not to love the way that this team played this year and how hard they competed, especially for this community. We don't always need to have the big sexy guys. We need to have the guys that are going to go through a wall for each other, and all the respect goes to the players for building that this year. But the most important thing is just to show people, we have a plan. You got to believe in it. You got to have that energy. There's always going to be times in sports where you've got to turn the page. You've got to start something new. And I think when you talk about development here in Vorarlberg, there's a lot of things we can do, continually do better. And that goes from the little kids up. And I feel like I have experienced everything here from learn to play hockey to ice league. And there's so much potential in the community, but we have to work together on it. We should not be fighting over a 10-year-old kid. We should be trying to do everything we can to give them the necessary steps. When young hockey players are 16 and 17, they should feel like there's potential for them to get to the ice league by taking 20 steps, not 2. So yeah, I think it was incredible. And like I said, I think the emotion that was in the hall in the pre-playoffs, even the end of the season, the emotion that was in the stadium for the quarterfinals was incredible. And I truly hope that I can help be a part of continuing build that there's just that energy, and if we can, we have a special thing here that I'm really excited to be a part of.
If you compare the beginning of the season to the end, to the playoffs, have you changed your personal approaches and tactics as a head coach? Also compared to your previous year last season as an assistant coach?
Yeah, there's. I believe in constant learning. I think most coaches probably do, but I believe that I've got a lot to learn. I think I can never preach to the players that humble, hungry attitude if I don't have it myself, and so I'm the first to admit that I've got a lot to learn, and I love to do it. I love to learn, and what's exciting about that is that there's so much more potential in what we can always do and what we can always bring. We're not going to just rinse and repeat and do exactly the same thing next year. There's a lot that we feel like we can do better. The way we practiced, the way we trained, the way we played. There's much we can improve. And I think what's fun about that is you get a chance to try new things. And I think one of the most important things I was told from many people that I spoke to before taking the head coaching job was that I had to be myself. And I think the one thing I'm probably proud of this year is I didn't go away from being myself. Even though I made mistakes and I have to do a lot better next year, I didn't turn into somebody I didn't want to be. And I think that was important for me. Just on an individual level, I think that helped the players to know that I was trying to be genuine, whether it was good, bad, or not. So yeah, I honestly, I think the best part about being a coach is you get to learn a lot. And since the season's ended, we've already sat and talked about the analytical numbers of what we did well and what we didn't do well, and we're definitely going to make some changes. And we need to put the right players in the right places to perform again. And there's a lot of work to be done. But again, I kind of think of this part of the year as kind of playing chess. Is we have to be very strategic, and we have to pick the right players to fill the right holes. We have to bring back the right people to do the right jobs. And as a coaching staff, we've got to spend the time to make sure that we are utmost prepared for next season, because we are going to be behind several teams in this league in terms of the quality they have. And that's just the truth. And so what we're going to do is make sure we put players in a performing environment that allows them to be the best they can be, and make sure that we put a system and rules around them that gives us the best chance.
You just talked about the steps that need to be taken looking to the upcoming season. What would you say are realistic goals? I mean, you can't really expect your team to make another playoff run like that, with almost having the top team of the league on the edge of Game 7 and maybe, making the semifinals. What would you say is a realistic goal for the upcoming season?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the most important thing is that we don't lose sight of who we are. We need to be very humble, even though we had some great performance at the end of the year and everything was very positive. We need to be very humble that we likely have to work up from the bottom again, and that's fine. I personally like that. We're going to be an underdog in most situations we go into. But what is really cool about this now is we have the chance to push a little harder, and we have the chance to demand a little bit more out of our players. We can prove that there was some things that worked really well this year and got us to a good point. And with that, we can demand a little bit more and we can push a little harder. And I think I'll be a little bit more comfortable in my role. My coaching staff will be a little bit more comfortable in their roles. And I think that's going to allow us to push. But we're not going to change who we are. We're not going to change the mindset we have. We're going to have a team that's going to compete really, really hard. We're only going to bring in players that fit that mold. And we're going to make sure that when we start the season next year, we push a little harder than we did this year. And at the same time, myself and the coaching staff is going to make sure that we do a better job in how we prepare this team, so that maybe we find that role a little bit earlier in the season and avoid the 6-game losing streaks and the 5-game losing streaks and whatnot. But yeah, I think this is exciting. I think the hardest thing about pro sports at our level is, a big message to some of the players we brought in this year was come in and give us everything you have. Compete harder than you've ever competed before, and I'll try my best as a coach to put you in an environment where you can make plays. And some of those guys made a lot of plays this year and did really, really well for themselves. And so very proud of them. And at the same time, we likely have to move on from some guys. And we're moving on for the right reasons. We have some guys that really did some awesome things this year. So, again, really happy for them.
So at the end of the day, you would say the goal is
making the pre-playoff. Yeah, the goal is, what was really cool to see this year is that when we went into pre-playoffs, I felt like we were the best of the 4 teams. I think we had a great record against Ljubljana and Pustertal and Innsbruck. We didn't at the start, but we found a way, and we found what worked against them, and were able to win the last 3 games against them. I felt like we found a rhythm. But at the same time, all those teams are going to make improvements to be better as well. And so I think for us, our goal is to put ourselves in a better situation about the pre-playoffs. I think you want to keep the race for the top 6 a possibility earlier in the year. We cannot have as many setbacks earlier in the year. And to try to put ourselves in a situation where we're not fighting at the end of January to stay in 10th. We're fighting for the chance to be, competing for home ice in the pre-playoffs and maybe potentially getting hot to fight for 6 or make some noise for 6. But I'll be honest with you, it's going to be really hard. It's going to be really, really hard. Graz is going to be obviously a much better team. They're not going to be happy if they're back where they are again. I think Asiago had a bit of a down year, and I'm sure that team is going to make some improvements. And, Vienna is not a team that you normally see out of the playoffs. I think it's their first time in over 20 years. That was a guess, but it's been a while. So this will not be easy. And likely in the early in the year, there's a chance we're not happy where we're at because of how we finished and how we handle that adversity. That'll be the next big test and something I'm already trying to prepare for. But we are going to push a little harder, and we'll see how it goes.
To wrap this up, if you had one wish free for the upcoming season, what would you wish for?
That the ice rink was a little warmer. No, you know what? I think the one thing that kind of hit home with the players at the end of the last game is I told them, I said, I wish we could run this back with all of them again. I think we had such a special group. When we did our exit meetings, from an old guy to a young guy, from a guy that had played in Salzburg to a guy that had played in North America to wherever they came from, they all felt like that was the best dressing room atmosphere and group they'd ever been in. And like I said, whether they were 20 or 35, that's special. And all those guys also know that's not easy to find again. And it is a business, and that's the shitty part about it. But the cool part is we know we did it once, and we'll put pressure on ourselves as a coaching staff to do it again. But yeah, I guess my wish would be is that we could try to run it back with as many guys as we could again. Even though I know that's not always going to be easy to do, if I had a wish, I would love to have this group again together next year with the things we learned, and hopefully make some noise like we did at the end of the season.